Hi, welcome to this video. My name's Phil and I'm a senior lecturer in astrophysics at the University of Lincoln, and I want to go back to this equation that we can use to find the distances to stars, but it means we need to know the absolute magnitude and the apparent magnitude of the star. So how do we actually calculate the absolute magnitude? So the apparent magnitude we can measure in the sky. The absolute magnitude is how bright the star is from some set distance. Now, how do we actually get that? So here's our equation. We've got our d, which is our distance in parsecs, that's the units, and we have our apparent magnitude, that's how bright the star appears in the sky as we observe it, and then your absolute magnitude, which is how bright the star would be from some set distance. And if we put those two values in there, use this equation, we can get the distance to the star. So absolute magnitude, the one we're interested in for this particular video, is how bright the star is when measured from the same distance all the time. This is 10 parsecs, or just under 33 light years. And that's how bright it would always be. So if you had the same star, they would always have the same absolute magnitude, but the same star at different distances would have different apparent magnitudes. So absolute magnitude, the same stars should always have the same value. Now, just a recap on what a parsec is. Again, topic for a separate video really, but 1 parsec is just the distance to an object whose parallax angle is 1 arc second. So as we go around the sun, we look at stars, and stars against their background stars, they kind of wobble around. This is a parallax angle, and 1 arc second for a parallax angle gives us this parsec, and that's where it originally comes from, just to kind of get you up to date on that. So if we know what type of star it is, we can determine its luminosity, how much energy is given it, how bright that it is. And all stars are different, but there are ways we can work out what type of star that is, how big it is, and its luminosity. If we know its luminosity, we can then convert that to an absolute magnitude, and then we can get its distance. So if we go to the HR diagram, the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, now this is a scatter plot of all different sorts of stars, and if you take the surface temperature or stellar classification, which is along the bottom axis, and you plot it against its absolute magnitude or luminosity, you get this sort of scatter plot shape here. Now the main sequence is a diagonal down the middle, going from the top left down to the bottom right, and what you typically find there is that all of the stars will fit onto distinct groups. So white dwarfs are in the lower left, main sequence that diagonal, you've got giant stars and red giants, things like that to the upper right. Now, we're talking purely about the actual main sequence, then hotter stars are on the left. Well, actually, that's not true at all. Actually, hotter stars in general are on the left and cooler stars are on the right. But the main sequence, they're going to be in that diagonal shape. And you can see kind of where the sun is there. We're kind of not quite midway, but we're there where luminosity is 1 because it's in solar units. So we can get the temperature of a star. That will give us its stellar classification. We can work out what type of star it is, and then we can then work out what its luminosity is. So how do we get the temperature or the spectral type? Well, we do spectroscopy. So spectroscopy is where we're looking at the amount of energy given out by the star as a function of wavelength. So this plot here, you've got wavelength on the bottom, so it goes from ultraviolet to infrared, and different coloured stars are different temperatures. Now, they have different shape, not shape necessarily, but they're peaking in different locations on that wavelength. So you've got the brightness of light or the intensity of light. Blue stars are further over towards the bluer colour, obviously, higher energies, they're hotter. Red stars are cooler, they're further over to the red, more towards the infrared. So we can then use that shape where it's actually peaking to get our temperature. And we use Wien's law to do that. So a fairly nice simple equation there. Now I've marked where the spectrum of those 3 stars, your blue, yellow and red star, are peaking with a green vertical line. So you'd note what the wavelength is there, and this looks like it's in nanometers. It is in nanometers. So your lambda peak is that wavelength where the green vertical line is. Put that into your equation. Your B is a constant of proportionality, and T is your temperature. So you just rearrange that for T, and you've got the temperature of your star then. So it's fairly straightforward. You just have to do spectroscopy, where we split the light over the wavelength, look for where it's kicking out the most energy, where the intensity of light is the strongest. That then can allow us to work out the temperature of the star. So once we've done that, and again I've used the example of the main sequence because again if it's of a source of star then it's not quite so straightforward. But anyway, let's do it for the sun. We've got its temperature. We can go up and we can also then work out its luminosity. We know its spectral type, we know its temperature, we can then determine its luminosity. Now if we know its luminosity, we can then actually, well okay, this is how you might calculate the luminosity I should say. So we've got temperature there, which I've not noted. So we've just calculated the temperature from Wien's law. So you've got the Stefan Boltzmann constant, you've got the radius of the star there. So depending on what we do and don't know, maybe we know the luminosity, we know the temperature, we can then work out its radius, or if we know the radius of the star and the temperature, we can get its luminosity. So this equation is quite useful for finding out other things as well. So we've got the luminosity now, we've got the temperature. We just now need to get the absolute magnitude. Now this is the bolometric magnitude, and the bolometric magnitude is the magnitude across all wavelengths, as opposed to just doing a set filter. So if you ever come across bolometric, that's kind of what that means, but it's the absolute magnitude nonetheless. So we have this equation here, and we've got the luminosity of the star, which is in yellow. We've just calculated that, or we've determined it. And then you've got the luminosity of the sun there. So it's just a ratio of the luminosity between our star we're measuring and the sun. And then we can get the bolometric absolute magnitude. So we've got absolute magnitude now. And if we know how bright the star is from a set distance, we can then work out a distance to it if we know how much it's actually dimmed down. So the intensity of light from the star is going to decrease with distance, and it decreases as 1 over r squared. So we can work out quite straightforward really how far away that star is, because we know how bright it should be from this distance, but it's actually this bright. So we can then find out the distance. So it's just to put this into context really, if a star is twice as far away from us as another star, then it will appear 1/4 the brightness. Just to give you a bit of an idea how that intensity drops off with that relationship. So the apparent magnitude then, as we mentioned at the very beginning, that's how bright it would be observed from Earth. So they're all the stars are at different distances, but the apparent magnitude is how bright it appears to us, not how luminous the star actually is, because it could be a long way off and be a very big bright star. So we've got our apparent magnitude, which we've then measured. We can go back to this equation here. We've got apparent magnitude, absolute magnitude. We've then got our distance to our star. So that's how we would determine the absolute magnitude and then apply it to this equation here. So thank you for watching. If you enjoy the videos and find them helpful, then do consider becoming a member of the channel. It helps support the channel, but there's also extra videos in the member section as well. So thank you for watching.